Hello, my name's Blossoms and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. And today I'm going to be giving you guys my Xiao guide. I absolutely love this character. I've been using him non-stop since he came out, and I've got him built out pretty well now, minus a good weapon. I do need to get a better weapon still, but I felt like I learned some things about him that I would love to share with you guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. First, we're going to hop into the priority for his talents. You will notice here all my talents are even, but that's because I did plan out for Xiao to go ahead and level all of his talents to this point, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Now, first of all, I think that the first and most important thing to level up is likely his normal attack. This is due to the fact that his plunge damage is incorporated into that normal attack. And then there's also the fact that the Bane of Evil gives a little bit of bonus to his normal and charged attack. So even if you're not leveling this up, it's probably more important to level this up first, and then probably Bane of All Evil and Lemnis Static Wind Cycling. You can kind of put these on the same level. I wouldn't worry about it too much. They all are very important to his kit though, so you will end up leveling them all up anyway. And I've gotten them all to 7, and past this point I'm going to be focusing on the normal attack and Lemniscatic Wind Cycling, and then whenever I get the time I will be focusing on Bane of All Evil. This is due to the fact that now that I've gotten Bane of All Evil to level 7, this has decreased my life drain to 2% current HP per second. It starts at 3% I believe, and then as you level it up it does lower, and the 2% is the final number for it to actually lower. And once you get to level 7, that's when it hits the 2%, which is why I was leveling everything up equally up until now. And now I'm going to focus on the normal attack and Lemniscatic Wind Cycling, and then eventually I'll get back to Bane of All Evil. So that's kind of how you want to prioritize your talent level ups there. I know it's a little complicated, but hopefully you're able to stay along with that. As for his artifacts, I did opt to stay with the 4-piece Viridescent Inventor. I just really like the set, especially when I'm pairing him with somebody like Xiao. Getting those constant swirls is very valuable and very fun for me, so I have opted to stay for that. However, you can definitely go for the 2-piece Glad, 2-piece Viridescent Inventor, as I mentioned in the talent showcase. I think those are probably going to be the two best options for you in the long run. You could also go 4-piece Gladiator, but then you're really missing out on the animo damage, and you really don't want to miss out on the animo damage just because in his burst he's only doing animo damage. So I would highly recommend at least for 2-piece Viridescent Inventor there, and then maybe 2-piece Glad, or, you know, just going for the 4-piece Viridescent. Then as for my stats, they haven't really changed much either, but I have been focusing on the crit damage and energy recharge and attack percent. You notice I do have a bit of HP here, and I do want to say if you do get some HP percent substats, not to worry about it too much, because you've got to think about the fact that he is going to be decreasing his own HP in his elemental burst. So having a little bit of an HP percent substat isn't the worst thing in the world for Xiao, because it's just going to increase your survivability a bit. I also have a bit of crit rate here and energy recharge and attack percent. Pretty nice stuff. I've got some pretty rock solid artifacts on him. And for the main sets here, I have an attack percent, sands, an animo damage bonus goblet, and a crit damage helmet. And I'm going with the crit damage helmet mostly because of the fact that I do plan to get a crit rate weapon like Deathmatch or the Primordial Jade Spear. We'll see which one I actually get first. But I am planning on sticking with the crit damage. Now, if you don't have very good crit rate, then obviously you should go for probably a crit rate helmet, as that's going to benefit you the most, because the consistency is going to be more important than the big numbers at that point. And then you'll notice I have more HP percent here and energy recharge. This is all really nice to have on Xiao. Getting those little bits of energy recharge and the little bit of HP percent, you definitely can't complain too much about. And then I did get kind of lucky here on his animo damage bonus goblet, as the substats weren't very good, but they all pretty much went into attack percent. So I personally don't have to worry about it too much, but I do want to try and get a better one in the future. As for weapons for Xiao, mine personally hasn't changed yet, because as I said, I plan to either use the Deathmatch or the Primordial Jade Spear, whichever one I get first. And I simply don't have a spear prototype, so I haven't been able to craft prototype Grudge. Otherwise, that would probably be the best free-to-play option for you. Another one not to look over here is Favonius Lance. If you're having a hard time getting his elemental burst, then I would recommend going Favonius Lance, because this is basically going to guarantee you getting that elemental burst as fast as humanly possible, because the crit hits just generate energy, and not only generate energy for him, by the way, they generate energy for your team. So this is a really strong option to have on him, especially since you're going to be normal attacking with him often in or out of his elemental burst. So you're going to generate a ton of energy with the Favonius Lance. However, I would say something like the Prototype Grudge, the fact that it has energy recharge, kind of covers your base there, so you don't have to worry about it too much. And I also want to mention that although I don't think the Crescent Pike is optimal for him, it's not a bad option. You still do get those additional damage numbers that can crit, and that is very nice, as that is going to be increasing his damage overall. But definitely not the most optimal in my opinion. Honestly, if I had my Favonius Lance a little bit more leveled up, I would probably be using that on him right now until I get my Deathmatch or Primordial Jade Spear. Or if I had this leveled up a little bit more, then I'd maybe even be using this. I don't think this is the most optimal either, but it's definitely not a terrible option. Now, as for my actual stats for Xiao, you notice I've only got him at 70 out of 80. I did run out of Mora and a bit of books here, so I am working on that. I am going to probably make him my first Ascension 6 character, but that'll be for the future. And for now, he's only got 1500 attack, a little bit of defense, a little bit of elemental mastery. And I also did want to mention this, I didn't mention it in the artifact section, that don't worry too much if you also get elemental mastery stats, as that is going to be increasing his swirl damage, and you definitely don't want to sleep on that. The swirl damage can be really strong, so if you get some elemental mastery substats, I really wouldn't worry about it too much. I would see it more as a boon. And then for my actual stats for Xiao here, you notice my crit rate and crit damage definitely aren't at the optimal ratio. And I do ask you to remember that I personally am planning to do the Deathmatch or the Primordial Jade Spear. So either of those will fix my crit rate entirely and put it around to like 60%, 60-70%. So that's where my crit rate is going to get fixed, is whenever I get the weapon I actually intend to use. And then crit damage obviously is a really good stat to have. I would like to get this higher if possible. That's just going to be me having to farm out perfect artifacts, even though I already have pretty decent artifacts. And then I have 133% energy recharge. I don't think this is necessarily the most optimal, but I do get his ult fairly often. So I think I personally kind of want to shoot for the 140 to 150 range, as I think that is going to be a really good range for Xiao to get his elemental burst consistently. As I said, I am getting it quite consistently at 133, so if you're struggling to hit 140 or 150, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. But I think if you hit 140 or 150, you'll be kind of coasting and won't worry about having to get his elemental burst. And then animo damage bonus here, I have 61.6%. That's because I have my goblet up to max, and I have the Viridescent set bonus on, so that's helping me out there, and a little bit of physical damage bonus from Crescent Pike, but I really wouldn't worry about that too much on your build. Now, there is something else I wanted to go into for Xiao, just kind of show you guys a little bit of gameplay for him. I wanted to make a note on a couple things you can do on his gameplay that are going to help you out a bunch. So let's check out. We'll be here on a relatively flat surface, and if you notice, if I hit E and I attack, then not much happens, about what you would expect would happen. But if I short hop in E, then I can do a plunge attack, and I want you guys to kind of consider that when you're going into engagements. That's going to be a little bit of a min-max thing you can do for Xiao, just to ensure that you're dealing the most damage. And another thing that you can do to ensure you're dealing the most damage is, say you're pairing him with somebody like Xiao, whose elemental burst relies on the fact that you're doing normal attacks. You're going to want to cancel his plunge animation with a normal attack, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So say I activate Xiao's Q here, I activate Xiao's Q here, I jump up, and you can do a normal attack in between the times that you actually jump. You see the swords are going there, and I'm not losing any time on my actual jumps here. So that's something you want to remember when you're playing Xiao as well. If you're pairing him with somebody like Xiao that really needs you to do those normal attacks, which you should be doing those normal attacks in between anyway, as that's going to min-max your damage in general. So do keep that in mind. You're going to want to try and get that normal attack in every plunge attack, as that's just going to, 1, increase your damage, and 2, if you're pairing with somebody like Xiao, that's going to increase your damage substantially, as you're not going to be losing damage by not doing the normal attacks. And then one other thing I kind of wanted to show off in the min-max department for Xiao is I want you guys to remember the fact that he has the Dissolution Aeon Heaven Fall or whatever. When the lemniscatic wind cycling is used, it increases the damage of subsequent uses by 15%. This effect lasts for 7 seconds and has a maximum of 3 stacks. So I did mention this in the showcase video, but you're going to want to time your E's properly. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and show off his E's here and kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. So you do one, you do the other, and you see, I don't know if you guys can see that, it was pretty quick. You can see one did slightly more damage than the other, but my third one is only going to do the same damage as the first, around that 4,000 mark. The second one on the initial two hit like 4,400, so that's about the difference, is like 400 damage there. But if you really want to min-max that, then you're going to need to time your E's a little bit better. You're going to be wanting to take a look at that cooldown, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So we press 1, and that did around the 4,000 that we are expecting, and then we're going to wait to around the 4-second mark here, hit it again, and you'll notice we did the same amount of damage on the second one, but by the time the cooldown there was ready on the third one, we still kept our damage bonus. I know that's actually really hard to keep up now that I think about it. I don't know if that was exactly the best showcase for what I'm talking about, but do keep in mind, if you are at C0 Xiao, you're going to need to go ahead and consider the fact that you're going to have to time your E's a little bit just to ensure that you're dealing the most optimal damage. One other neat little combat tip I kind of wanted to show you guys before we move on is the whole charge attack concept here. You'll see once I get his thing done here, you throw him in the air and you do your E, and then you can actually get a plunge attack in range on them. I don't know if that's necessarily the most effective way to use your E's, but it is definitely a fun one, and I think it just kind of shows the potential of how much fun Xiao can be in his actual, E. Now, one other thing I kind of wanted to show you about Xiao here is the fact that he can actually hit Ruin Hunter Eyes if you just get it properly. It is a little hard to do, I'm not going to lie here. And it's definitely much easier inside of his Elemental Burst. But as a pseudo Elemental Burst here, we used Albedo, and you see there, he actually got hit in the core. Now there is one more thing I wanted to give kind of a tip on Xiao, is the fact that his HP drain really isn't that much. You got to remember that it's of his current HP and not his max HP, the percentage that's actually being taken. So you don't really need an insane healer for him. Obviously you could do really good healers that are going to help him, but if you notice on this team, I'm kind of just using Xiao as my healer, and that's kind of doing enough for me. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what I mean here. Is in the queue, he's really not losing that much HP at all. Look at the ticks there. They really aren't that substantial. Yes, they are there, but they really aren't that big. And you see Xiao's swords kind of went out of effect there, and it pretty much covered any HP we lost just there. It takes about several ticks to go ahead and do that, and you notice we didn't even get into the red or anything in there. So if you're worried about the HP drain, I really wouldn't be worried about it too much, as it just really isn't that significant. And would it really be a build video if we didn't bully the Pyro Regisvine? So obviously that's what we're gonna do. Let's check it out. I've got everybody's ults planned here, so let's go ahead and mess with the Pyro Regisvine. Get in here. See if we can get this down real quick. Kind of showing you guys some of those tips I gave you. And easy one phase. Xiao just does a ridiculous amount of damage on his own, and when you actually pair it with some units that go with him, then you can manage to one phase pretty much anything. That's gonna be it for the Xiao video for today. I actually love Xiao, and I tried to include some more combat tips here just to give you guys an idea of how you can actually utilize Xiao in his kit and just how much of a skill ceiling there actually is for him. You notice there were a lot of interesting ways to utilize his E or Q or maybe his charge attack or something that really allows you to min-max his damage and manipulate your opponents in ways that we just haven't seen before, and I'm really loving his kit. So hopefully those little combat tips I gave and whatnot are helping you guys, and you can actually utilize them for yourselves if you get Xiao. And anyway, yeah, this is pretty much my new main DPS. I freaking love him so much, and I can't wait to, you know, get a decent weapon for him like Primordial Jade Spear Deathmatch, and I'm just super excited to get those. But anyway, that's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like if you actually did enjoy, and let me know your thoughts on Xiao or your builds for Xiao if you're doing something really creative with it or anything. I would love to hear that in the comments, or maybe you got even better substats than me. I would also like to hear that in the comments. But anyway, that's going to be it for me. My name is Blossoms, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.